Hey, hey, hey. It is a good Tuesday evening to everyone from Metro Manila broadcasting tonight. So, wherever it is you're tuning in this evening, we want to welcome you. I hope you are well. For those of you who may be tuning in for the first time this evening, my name is Chad, and I am your host this evening at Talk Time. Talk Time are discussions on life and faith. So this is a place where, we want to talk about practical things and how we can apply these things in our everyday life. Varied topics that are talked about all the time. And so tonight, if you're not yet aware, the topic for tonight is staying cool during the pandemic. It's a very cool evening in Metro Manila just because of the rains as well. Umulan po ba kung nasaan kayo sa araw na ito? Let us know in the chat, how it is where you are. Please comment down in the chat boxes. So we want to say good evening to our early connectors tonight. Those that tuned in early tonight is Tito Boy Without Fail. Magandang gabi po, Tito Boy Kadimas, Pasara Bell, and several other friends that are here this evening. Tito Gomez, Tito Egay Gomez, and we also have Tita Noy that's here this evening. A lot of people from Antipolo this evening. Si Jacob Ombal, wow, from Antipolo City. Magandang gabi, Kuya RD as well. Mark Daniel Gomez, ayon, and GJ, early connectors tonight. Hey, if you are hearing me, if my audio is clear, could you give me a thumbs up or just comment in the chat and say good audio? If you can see me okay as well, just let me know in the chat box. That would really help a lot for tonight. So how has your past 4 months been? This is a question that we constantly talk about, discuss, especially here in Metro Manila, because just recently our GCQ was extended, in fact, last week. And so what we thought was going to ease up a little bit, it seems, based on the reports that we're hearing right now in the news and the situation that's happening around us, infections are continuing to rise. How is that making you feel today? I'd love to know. I'd love to know. So leave a comment down on how you're feeling about all these things. And if you're on Facebook, there's a bunch of emojis that you could actually click on. So if you're one of those, you're kind of like, you're worried, you're upset, you're a bit angry, you're sad, hit one of those emojis tonight and just let me know. I'd love to know how you guys are feeling. Couple of things just to help you guys this evening as we get going on Talk Time. One of the best ways to maximize this time really is just to focus on your screens. So I would highly suggest, if you're doing anything, at least for the next hour, maybe just sit back and relax. If you're listening or watching on your mobile phone, plug in your earphones. That will help you get better audio. Or if you've got a smart TV, you can go ahead and just put this up on your TV. Facebook has just recently included this new thing in their functionality where you can actually cast what you're seeing on your screen on your smart TVs right now. Otherwise, you can also go to our YouTube channel. That's ICS Church on YouTube, and you're going to find Talk Time there. We're streaming for the very first time tonight on YouTube. So we're going to try this out this evening. Hey, want to say good evening as well, just for those of you who just tuned in. So, hey, we've got Hanilet, Lemma, Roslyn, Patino, Pastora Sarah, Tita Jean, Guy, and Tita Fem, Femia Fuentes, good evening po sa inyo. So all the way there in Parañaque City. Good evening to everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. One more thing I want to remind you guys about is throughout this evening, if you have questions related to what's being presented, it'll be awesome if you wrote it down in the comments. That would really be helpful because we want to take some time at the end of the presentation just to talk about some of those questions that you may have or some of the reactions that you may have in the presentation this evening. So I want to introduce you tonight, our guest. For those of you who call ICS Church your home church, he is somebody that you would know very well. And I've known him for several years now. And it's always, always, always a joy to be able to sit down with Tito Temi Padla, as I call him, and really just to get to know not just him as a person, but the insights that he has as well. So let me introduce you tonight, Mr. Temi Padla, who is our guest this evening. Magandang gabi po, Tito Tems.
Good evening
po sa
Pastor.
inyo.
Good evening.
So welcome to Talk Time. Welcome to Talk Time. So glad that you are available to be our guest this evening. And I know a lot of people have been anticipating tonight's talk. Promote niya kanina ni Tito Egay sa prayer stream. Talaga excited siya. So he's one of the first ones to plug in this evening. Kumusta na po this past 4 months? How have you been? Diyan po sa inyo.
Actually, okay. The only thing visible talaga, hindi matatago. My hair has grown very long. Sabi ko nga, in 1 more month, if this thing doesn't change, I will be wearing my hair in a ponytail.
Yes. Wow. I'd love to see that, Tito Tems. I would love to see that. I don't know if the rest of the family members will appreciate that, pero sabi nga quarantine hairstyle nga daw ngayon. Quarantine hairstyle. Yung napansin ko medyo may fly away ng konti sa likod. Ang galing. There's a lot that's sporting that kind of hairstyle today. So for those who may not know, Tito Temi is married to the awesome Noemi, formerly Villanueva, now Padla, and they have 3 amazing kids. We've got Joshua, Sam, and Dea. And these are all adult children. They're married, and you guys are happy grandparents.
Of 3.
Of 3, yes. So growing. The Padlas are a growing family. At yun nga, just before the broadcast tonight, the background kanina, had an opportunity to get a glimpse of one of the grandkids, si Nicola, made an appearance in the backstage kanina. Yeah. So kumusta po yun? I mean, are you able to get to see your grandkids itong nakaraang mga ilang buwan?
Well, si Nicola, I see her every day kasi she's staying with us. But si Noah and Ezra, I get to see them only online or siguro once every 2-3 weeks. And even then, we only see them, they come down and they go into the car. We're not allowed to go in.
Right.
So yung condo nila. So we have to see them in the house. I mean, in the car.
Right. So yung mga limitations na yan, nakakamiss talaga mga family members during this time. Yeah. So a lot of changes that's been going on. And one of the interesting things, yun nga, because it's now, we're in the middle of our 4th month under quarantine in Metro Manila. Do you feel a certain normalcy? Kumbaga, obviously, it's not normal the way it was before, but have you developed some routines that actually makes it feel a little normal now po?
Not really. Ibang-iba talaga yung mundo ko ngayon. But as far as connecting with people is concerned, we're very fortunate that nangyari ito when the internet is already fairly advanced. So I still am very active with my clients. Kaya lang, even though the internet is available, for example, with one of my clients, all of a sudden, postpone. Why? Nagsara kami kasi one of our employees was tested positive, so nag-shut down. That sort of thing has happened. so many times already. So
Mm, mm,
it's really different. Good good things and bad things happening.
right, right. So a lot of this has been limited really to its online training. Online training
Right.
ang
Yeah. And
ginagawa
online
niyo po.
meetings. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, before the quarantine, was that something that you already did? Or kumbaga, was this something na talagang you were forced to do because of the season?
Yeah. Just forced to do. Although I recall that I have been trying to persuade a lot of my clients to go online. And
Mhm,
one of them, in fact, already invested in online training.
mhm.
But ewan ko, something happened, hindi nag-push through yun. And now they're regretting because had they pushed through, they would have been able to deliver a lot of training programs online.
Right.
So parang now, the pressure to go online it's no longer nice to have. It's
Right.
a must have. So unless you're able to adjust to that kind of delivery, oh, may iwanan talaga.
Yes. Yes. That is so true. So again, it's a seismic shift in terms of doing work, doing meetings, even
Oh yeah.
training and development, and obviously church. You know how we do church has been dramatically shifted. Um, Now I know Tito Temps a little later on you're going to be sharing a bit on your background, so I'm not gonna ask too much about that right now. But you did work in a corporate setting
Mhm.
for quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
48 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Around that much, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a long time. It's a long time. So there's a lot of skill, a lot of definitely experience and wisdom that you bring in from that. Now, specifically po, in the corporate world, what was your focus?
My work had always, it's strange because my graduate studies were in economics, but my work in the corporate world was mostly in human resources.
Okay.
So uh, most of the most of my most of the things that I know now, which I'm trying to help my clients with, is in the area of human resources planning.
Hmm.
Uh,
Would really be
I
challenging.
raised I raised the point in one of my meetings. This is with education people in the education world, no? Because they were saying that we will be able to adjust. Give us time, but we'll be able to adjust. We'll deliver to, our schools. Our teachers will teach online. And I raised the point that that's really good as far as the subject matters are concerned, because you can teach arithmetic, English, and so on online.
Hmm.
But one of the things that schools provide is really the interaction among the students, out of
Yes.
which out of which leaders emerge, people develop, students develop character and personality, which will not happen online. So
Hmm.
whatever you plan to do, don't forget that online will only address the academic side, the intellectual side, but social skills, they will not get that online. So
Yes.
they said, yes,
Yes.
we will, we will take that into account.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I mean, absolutely. That's a huge challenge. Although we appreciate the technology that we have right now that enable us to do this, this definitely, hopefully, it's not something that will be permanent. We definitely still want to have face-to-face social interaction live, in the flesh.
Yeah.
And really that's something that you're going to be talking a little bit about tonight,
Mhm.
the importance of these interactions, because we do have them happening all the time, whether it's people in our home or in our workplaces, and it's very important. And unfortunately, not everybody is able to stay cool when it comes to these relationships, lalong lalo na no pag confined spaces for a prolonged
Yeah.
period of time. So tonight, again, I want to give as much time as possible to Tito Thames. And so I'm going to turn it over to him just to share, again, the things that he's learned this past month's insights on how we can be better in our current setting, especially when it comes to our relationships. Thank you very much, Paul. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much, Pastor Chad. As the title implies, staying cool during the pandemic, there is an implication there that we're not cool. We're not really that happy and we're not really that comfortable during the pandemic. And that's true for most of us. The lockdown has really upset a lot of our habits, a lot of our plans. I noticed si Hanilet posted a statement earlier tonight. Sabi niya, during past 4 months, our family learned resilience. And let's learn as a family. Individually, we develop resilience, our own ways. But as a family, the family has to come together to learn that sort of thing. So I'm glad si Hanilet posted that. It kind of triggered a thought in my mind. So we are not really cool, and we need to find out, so how do we become cool? No? Okay. So maybe I should start with a question. Sino ba hindi nakaranas ng stress during this lockdown? And the reason for that question is because alam ko namang lahat halos nakaranas ng stress. Precisely because of the lockdown. Example, no? We have a friend who would maybe once every 2 years would go on a cruise around the world. In different parts of the world with her mom. And although while here in Manila they get along very well, one thing they notice is that when they are on a cruise, halos araw-araw nag-away sila. And after a while, they were wondering, bakit na tayo nag-away? And they were realizing na, during that 7 days that they're on a cruise, they're together 24 hours a day. And that creates all kinds of stresses. For example, now that we are in the lockdown, and there's only one TV at home, for example, you're watching Ang Provinciano. Well, it's not there anymore. But if you're watching it, and then somebody comes in and says, I want to see some other channel. Doon pa lang, medyo pwede nang magkaroon ng away. So, all kinds of things. So, question related to this is, ilan kaya ang may problema? And gaya nito, no? Nai-stress din kaya, kung ikaw nai-stress, yung mga kasama mo sa bahay, nai-stress din kaya sila? And the interesting question is, nai-stress ba sila dahil sa'yo? Are you contributing to the problem? Diba? So, for example, pag uwi mo sa bahay, tanong ng mami mo, saan ka galing? Ang sagot mo, dead ma. Or, worse, sagutin mo ba naman ng, pwede ba? That sort of thing. And that gets into a spiral of tension that builds up. And if in 4 months, you have not been able to resolve issues like that, little details, baka ngayon, grabe na. Di ba? So, we will try to provide some tips that I've learned in these past few months, I've picked up in these past few months, but related to my experiences in the long past. No? This next slide, sabi ni Emmy, wag ko daw pakita ko to eh. Kasi parang, ano ba naman yan, nagyayabang ka pa yata. Pero, well, just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. No? I've really spent 25 years corporate as a learner. No? I would attend training programs. I would be sent to training programs. And I took these programs very, very seriously. And after that, I spent 23 years as an internal consultant. Internal, ibig sabihin, I was an employee of the companies and I was the consultant there, but as an employee. Then when I left the corporate world, I had 17 years as an external consultant. And my clients would include both private and government organizations. And siguro ang clincher talaga is, I can claim this to a large extent honestly, na this has been, I have had the benefit of 72 years of reflection. Meaning, lahat ng nararanasan kong masaya o masakit, pinag-iisipan ko. I reflect on those experiences. Siguro hindi naman 72 years, no? Kaya sa bawasan mo na lang ng mga 6 na taon. So maybe 66 years of reflection. You know, one of my bosses in San Miguel, sabi niya sa akin, what is the difference between 1 year experience, repeated 10 times, and 10 years worth of experience? And siya rin ang sumagot. Sabi niya, you know, the guy with 1 year experience repeated 10 times is like that because he never reflects on his experiences. Whereas the guy with 10 years worth of experience, accumulated 10 years worth of experience, sabi niya, he's able to accumulate 10 years of experience because every little experience that he has, he reflects on them and learns as a result. You don't reflect, you don't learn. Kaya sabi niya, you know, yung kabarkada ko, this guy is a Spanish mestizo. He came in sa San Miguel, Spanish mestizo din yung barkada niya. Dalawa sila, they went in together. And by the time that I joined San Miguel and he became my boss, he was already senior vice president. Yung barkada niya, who joined him entering in San Miguel many years earlier, came in as a warehouse man. And at the time that I joined San Miguel, senior vice president na yung boss ko. Yung kanyang barkada was still a warehouse man. So, he used that as an example. Sabi niya, you know, if you do not reflect, you'll end up like my friend. But if you reflect on your experiences, there's a big future ahead of you. So, siguro, nobody can really claim expertise with respect to personal relationships kasi everybody's unique, every relationship is unique. But when you reflect, you reduce the areas of uncertainty, ambiguity. So, maybe back of your minds, whoever is listening now, no? Back of your minds, keep in mind, importante yung nagre-reflect tayo. I will leave with only 2 major items. And sana napag-isipan mabuti yung 2 major items na. Anyway, ang agenda natin, I'll be making a brief presentation and then hopefully generate a lot of questions from everyone. Okay, so what the relationships do we normally have? Andyan yung family. Well, obvious yun, diba? Most of us are probably watching at our homes, naka-lockdown, with family. Tapos, andyan yung friends. Sabi nila, you usually develop friendships in high school, yun ang pinakamapinding friends. Some in college, and then after college, parang konti na lang. You don't really develop deep friendships anymore. Except, kagaya sa atin, and I'm really happy about this, I've met many people only in the very few years past in ICS. And, you know, mga kaibigan natin sa ICS, talagang friends. In many ways, even deeper friendships than my friendship with high school guys and college friends. Of course, romantic partners, obvious yun. And then colleagues. Ano man difference between colleagues and friends? Yung friends, yung tunay mong matatawag na friends, are people who would go out of their way to help you when you're in need. Colleagues, on the other hand, the other term that I like to use with respect to colleagues is, these are allies. As long as you have common interests, common values, he will work together. They will work with you. Pero pag nagkaipitan na, ayan na yung ilalaglag ka na rin. Friends will not do that. But you have to have relationship with all of these, otherwise you cannot live in society. So, ano bang mindsets natin about these relationships? Okay. There are many perspectives, di ba? But there are two that are highlighted, and I would like to stress them. There is a power perspective in these relationships where you think, hindi ako magpapa-under sa taong ito. Hindi ako magpapaloko sa taong ito. Power ang relationships. But there is also the other perspective, which is what we have in church, the Christian perspective. And these are two very, very different perspectives and may impact yon on the way we relate with each other, especially during stressful periods like the pandemic, no? Na naka-lockdown tayo. So, yung power perspective, ang concept niya is, sindakin mo sila bago ka masindak. At pag nakuha mo ng sindakin sila, huli mo na sila. Tiklop na sila. They will follow you already. Yun yung concept ng a power perspective. Doon kumbaga ang mindset is, I have to be the boss around here. That's the power perspective. But on the other hand, pwede natin define it from the perspective of those who follow, those who have this power perspective. To those na sumusunod lang saya, meron namang nasasabi kasi, ayos lang yan. Ayos siya. Kung ikaw siguro isang kaladkari, ayos nga naman. Di ba? You will feel, siya nang bahala. Susunod-sunod lang ako. Pero kung ikaw ay may panindigan sa buhay, siguro isipin mo, ingot yun na. Di ba? So, a power tripper, if we were to define him a little bit, ganyan yung behavior niya. Nanood ka ng TV, pasok siya. Akin na yung remote. Lipat tayo dun sa favorite channel ko. Wala siyang pakialam sa anong pakiramdam mo kayo, anong nararamdaman mo nung inagaw ko yung remote. Sa kanya hindi importante yun. Importante, basta gusto kong panoorin yung gusto kong panoorin. Usually, yung mga pumapayag na merong power tripper, ayaw lang ng gulo. And therefore, tahimik lang sila. And in the latter part of this presentation, I will be talking about, hindi naman kailangang tahimik ka lang eh. Ang fear kasi is pag kinonfront mo yung power tripper, anyone who tries to ano yung tawag doon, railroad you into something that she or she wants, para lang walang gulo, tatahimik na lang ako. There is actually a way of dealing with that situation na will not necessarily lead to conflict. In fact, you can actually build bonds addressing power tripper behaviors. Yun ba yan? Naglagay ka ng label sa food, nilagay mo sa ref. Sabi, do not touch. Balikan mo, wala na doon. Nangyari sa package ko. Kinain na ni daddy. Okay, sorry na lang. Okay. Friends, we are sharing amazing experiences. Pasok si Dida. Walang sinabing lahat na yan sa naranasan ko sa London. Siya pa rin ang bida. Doesn't care whether he's a wet blanket. Tapos, nasagin ni Dida isang tasang kape. Kayo lang siya tumalis. Kayo na bahala dyan. Ganyan yung behavior na. Now, it is possible that you identify some people, relate them to these behaviors. No? Kung ganun nga ang nangyayari, you're identifying people and you have not done anything about it kasi takot ka ng gulo, makinig lang tayo. In a short while, we'll talking about one way of doing it so that you not only do not lead to conflict, but actually build relationships with those guys. Ito, obvious na obvious to doon sa mga hindi masyadong nag-i-insist on what is right. Mura ng mura yung barkada mo, tapos ikaw tatawa-tawa pa. Parang walang pinag-iba yun dun sa nung high school, maraming nagbibigay ng green jokes. Walang sumisita, tumatawa pa. Diba? Yung mga nakikinig. Okay, so parang pumapayag kang madala ng power trippers. In this case, jokes. Hindi maganda. On the other hand, that's the power tripper side, perspective. But there is also the Christian perspective. It says, well, love, all you need. Mark 12:31 especially. No? And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Diba? O nga naman. So, how do you practice that kind of love? Love as you love yourself, as you love God. Paano mo napapractice yun when you are the one being stressed by these power trippers? Or kung hindi man conscious power tripper, yung pabaya lang talaga. Very unaware of the impact they have on you. How do you handle that? Okay. There are two suggestions I will be sharing. There are many actually, no? Pero itong dalawang to, ang can make all the others make sense. No? The first one is, when you're dealing with someone who is stressing you, the tendency is either you become very quiet, ignore it, or awayin mo. Diba? Titiisin mo hanggang di mo na kayang tiisin, and then babanatan mo na. Diba? Hindi maganda. One way of addressing problems like that is, number one, focus on the situation, the issue, or the behavior, not the person. No? I translated this into Tagalog. I'm not too sure if I'm doing it justice. Tutukan yung nangyari, ang ginagawa ng kausap mo. Huwag yung kanyang pagkatao. Huwag siya. Tapos yung number two, maintain the self-confidence and self-esteem of the other person that you're talking to. Again, my attempt at translating it to Tagalog, dalangin ang katauhan at karangalan ng taong kausap mo. The second one actually is the explanation why it is important to focus on the situation, issue, and behavior, and not on the person. But more of that later. Okay. Ito siguro narinig nyo na to. Various versions of this statement. Parang, ang tanga mo, pindot lang, hindi mo pa magawa. Meron na bang nakarinig niya? Compare that with this statement. So ang situation is, somebody leaves the room, joins you in the sala, but does not turn off the lights in the room that he left. One reaction is, tanga-tanga talaga nitong taong to. Pindot lang, di mo kaya. The other one is, alam mo, maaaring konti lang, pero may matitipid tayo pag lagi mong i-off yung lalabas ka ng kwarto. The difference between these two is yung isa, yung tao ang tinira mo. Yung tao ang binanatan. In the second one, what you're doing is what you did, not you. You, I will always love. You are my son, or you're my cousin, you're my brother. I will always love. I will always care for. But what you did is not acceptable. In effect, yun yung sinasabi mo dyan. Di ba? Pwede mong dagdagan ng lambing, di ba? Uy, alam mo, kahit konti, makakatipid tayo pag pinapatay mo yung ilaw eh. But the important point there is you're not addressing the person. You're addressing what he did, which is not so nice. Compare that with the ineffective statements. Ang tanga-tanga mo, kahit na anong lambing sabihin mo dyan, tanga pa rin siya sa sinabi mo. Not so good. Okay. Eto, another way of saying the same thing. Jake, hindi mo pinatay yung ilaw paglabas mo. Hindi makakatulong yan sa pagtitipid natin. Same thing, same statement. But both would arrive at a resolution without hurting the person's feelings. Yeah. So more of that same. On the other hand naman, yung pag-positive na, no? Yung kanina kasi meron siyang ginawang mali, di ba? Dito, meron siyang ginawang tama. Pero pag sinabi mo, ang galing mo, we're saying mali pa rin yun eh. And you know why? Compare that with this. Janet, ikaw yung naghugas ng pinggan kanina. Salamat ha. You know, the difference is, nung sa isa, parang, lalo na kung lagi mong ginagawa yun, eventually, ang dating mo plastic. Parang puro ka na lang puri. Whereas in this case, dahil klarong-klaro for what you are thanking her for, ikaw daw ang naghugas ng pinggan kanina. May dating. Di ba? Next time around, you say salamat ha, or thank you, or ang galing. Pero sinundan mo ng ano yung ginawa niya na magaling. Then you will never sound plastic. Okay, so why is it important? Most people, and this one is research-based now, most people can accept negative comments as long as they don't feel they are being attacked. Di ba? Then, when people feel that they are being attacked, option, either flight, tatahimik na lang, iiyak na lang, or fight. Sisigawan ka. Diba? But either way, the opportunities to influence other people, influence them for the better, nawawala, nababawasan. So, positive feedback can appear plastic unless accompanied with specifics. This we need to remember. Kasi it's so easy to say, galing mo, pre. Kung walang kasamang detalye yon, eventually, you will be, mababansagan ka na si good boy lang yan. Puro puri. But if you always accompany your praises with specifics, may dating pa. So how do you do that? Okay. Provide facts, no? Be specific and avoid generalizations, and apply to both positive and negative situations. So, yun yung number one. Focus on the situation. We'll go deeper into it later, no? With specific examples and how-tos. But let's go to number two ngayon. Maintain the self-confidence and self-esteem of others, of the other person. Okay. Example to. Ano kayang pakiramdam ng isang tao na sabihan mo ng ganyan? Ano ka ba? Daig mo pa palengkera. Depende kung gaano katibay yung dibdib ng tao yan. Maaring awayin ka o tatahimik na lang. But regardless, nasaktan yun. Would feel very, very hurt and would begin to doubt, ano ko, baka naman walang talagang kwentang tao ako. You damage the self-confidence, self-esteem of people when you make statements like that. The same situation, if your statement was something like this, "Whoa, sis, anong nangyari at napasigaw ka?" Now, you're not condemning the person. You're asking a question. Doon sa isa, kinundina mo na eh. Palengkera ka pala eh. Di ba? Here, you're even asking a question. You're trying to build bridges. Di ba? Isa pa, yan ka na naman. Saan ka ba nung nagbigayan ng utak? Sakit pakinggan. The same thing, the same situation, kung ganito ang reaction mo, ang statement mo is, so ulitin, pakibilang ng sukli bago ka umalis. Now you're not only being very specific, you're also addressing yung ang ginawa ng tao. And in a way that does not damage the self-esteem or self-confidence of the other person. You know, isipin mo na lang, how many times in the last 4 months have you made statements that were like the one on the left? Ayan ka na naman. Saan ka nung nagbigayan ng utak? Yeah. And how many times were you able to say statements like sa ulitin, pakibilang ng sukli, detalya, and addressing the behavior, the action, not the person. So, okay. Importante ba talaga yun? That I think before I talk to make sure na hindi ako nakakadamage ng self-esteem, guys. Well, no matter what you might think of yourselves, you think, what we think of ourselves, people around you would want to feel that you value them. Sipin mo lang, if people around you do not think that you are important enough that they want to be valued by you, ang tingin nila sa'yo, wala ka rin kwentang tao. And that's not a very good starting point for establishing relationships. So it is safer, better to assume that other people think of you as a person of influence and that they want you to value them. And as a result of that, people who are treated as though they're problematic will become problematic. Ulit-ulitin mo sa isang high school student. High school na, hindi ito toddler. Ulit-ulitin mo sa isang high school student na ikaw talaga bobo ka. Siguro 8 students out of 10 students, ulit-ulitin mong bobo ka. 4 years of high school. Pagdating sa college niyan, baka ayaw nang mag-enroll. Kasi kumbinsido na rin siya na bobo siya. That's the Pygmalion effect. Treat people as unimportant. People have low potential or are problematic, and they will live up to that expectation. The nice thing about it is, it works the other way around. If you treat people like these are people with potential, these are people na may kinabukasan, these are people who will become somebody, they will be major contributors to progress of the Philippines. You treat them that way, there is a very high likelihood they will become like that. They will become what you treated them to be. Doon sa My Fair Lady, that movie, there's a scene na parang pinagyayabang yung main character doon na that girl became what she is because of the way I trained her. She is now a lady, and I took her from the gutters of London. And the lady, played by Audrey Hepburn, said, a lady is not a lady because of her clothes or her behavior. A lady is a lady because of the way you treat her, the way she's treated. And I think that was a very nice statement. People become what they are because of the way they are treated by people around them. So, how do you maintain self-confidence and protect self-esteem? 4 suggestions. 1, instead of directly telling, why not ask or suggest something. Yeah. For example, you say the same thing but different words. No? Bigay mo sa akin yan. Said another way, would you like to give me that pencil, please? Pareho yun. But the other one is more self-esteem generating and protecting of self-confidence. Acknowledge their ideas when they share. Pag nagsalita at maganda naman yung sinabi, sabihin mo. And then, ito importante, number 3, try avoiding a judgmental tone. Ibang, pwede mong sabihin kasi ang galing mo. Pero depende sa tono, iba dating. Pwede mong sinabi, ang galing mo. Pwede mong sabihin, yeah, ang galing mo. Iba dating. And number 4, kung kilala mo naman siya at alam mo na mayroong mga nangyari sa past na maganda, ginawa niya maganda, banggitin mo. Na, naalala ko pa yung ganda ng ginawa mo doon. And again, be specific. Okay. Challenge ko to sa inyo. Magbibigay ako ng isang Toblerone chocolate bar. Papadala ko via Grab. Basta within Metro Manila lang. If you can give an effective alternative way of expressing the sentence that I'm about to show you in a way that would protect the self-esteem of the person you're talking with. You can give multiple answers and this will be judged by the pastoral staff. The winner will be announced at the Wednesday Night Live. Okay? Ito yung scenario. Your English-speaking kasambahay just dropped and broke an expensive replica of a Ming Dynasty vase or vase. And you shout out, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen." Kanino ka ba pinaglihi? Obviously, ineffective. Obviously, not a good way to say it. So, ang challenge to is, kung meron sa inyong makaisip ng another way of saying it that would protect the self-esteem of that kasambahay and would raise the self-confidence of the kasambahay. Imagine, kakabasag na lang ng very expensive vase. Kung meron kang maisip na gano'n, paki-post. And then, pastoral staff will say kung sino yung pinakamagaling. And then, i-announce yun sa Wednesday Night Live. Dahil hindi naman tayo nagkikita-kita, I will send this through Grab. Huwag lang kung doon ka nakatira sa London. Ito lang, Metro Manila. Okay, so, memorize mo yung statement na yan. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Kanino ko ba pinaglihi? Come up with an alternative way of saying that same thing. And maybe you'll get the prize. Okay? That's one part. Ikaw yung na-stress. And we're saying na kung ikaw yung na-stress, there are ways of handling it. Yun nga, some of the tips we shared. Paano naman kung ikaw ang problema? Paano kung ikaw yung stress? So, ikaw yung nagdadala ng stress sa pamilya? Sa bahay ninyo. Paano yun? Normally, madali lang sanang sabihin na, problema na nung iba. Kung sila yung na-stress, problema na nila. But, from a power perspective, that seems to be the end of it. Okay na. But if you're truly a Christian, and the Lord told us to love your neighbor as yourself, kulang yun. That, of course, is not acceptable. So, paano yun? Again, ulitin ko, part of the problem is, kadalasan, people who hurt other people do not even know that they are hurting others. Kumbaga, kulang sa self-awareness, kulang sa pakiramdam. Diba? Tingin mo, if you're really bad, ang mindset mo pa nga is, there are always two sides to every question. My side and the wrong side. Kung ikaw yung not self-aware. Diba? So, anong gagawin mo? Okay. Siguro a little recollection. What did you do when you were the stressor? Diba? For example, in a conversation, 3 other guys, 4 other guys, hindi mo napapansin, ikaw lang ang nagsasalita. Isang oras na, ikaw pa rin yung dala ng dala. And the rest, nakatingin sa'yo, pero yung iba, medyo humihikab na, tumitingin-tingin na sa labas ng bintana, pero hindi mo napapansin. You were stressing this other guy. Nangyari ba sa iyo yan? And you were not aware that you were stressing others? Well, kung nangyari sa yon, you might want to post, what did you do in those situations? Pwede kasing pagka nangyari yon, at somehow you felt it, naramdaman mo yun, na na-stress na itong mga kasama. Points for you, brownie points for you. Pero kung halimbawa, hindi mo man nalaman yun, it's not even something that you can share. Diba? Kasi hindi mo alam na ma-stress ka na ng iba. So, okay. Ano bang mga anong pwedeng gawin doon? Na nagawa nyo na. No? Meron ba? Si Aimee, meron. Oh no, nabasag ang napakamahal na base natin. Well, ano magagawa natin? Accident yan. I'm sure hindi mo gustong basagin yan. Sayang, pero bagay lang yan. Ang pera ay kinikita naman. Galing. If you really felt that way. Diba? Magaling. Pero some of us, maybe most of us, ang feeling nila is, 6 na buwang sweldo mo yan. Paano mo babayaran yan? And dahil nga, it took you a while to buy that thing, nag-ipon ka pa doon, galit na galit ka. Okay, RD has an addition. I know you didn't mean to break things, but if you're not careful, this will happen. In the future, sana mas naging maingat tayo sa kilos natin para hindi makadisgrasya. Again, another very good statement. Galing-galing. Both are very good. Lalo na if it really comes from deep inside you. Hindi yung napilitan ka lang. Pero wow, compare mo yun sa, saan ka ba pinaglihi? Ang panga-panga mo. Iba talaga ang dating. You are able, you will be able to, if that is not an isolated behavior coming from you, but a consistent pattern of behavior towards your fellow kasama sa bahay, you really create a very powerful bond among yourselves. But consistency is part of it. Kasi kung alam mo isolated yon, in other parts, nagwawala ka talaga. Hindi rin makaka-relate yung iba. Tapos si Dines, hindi come here, what happened? Okay, I know you're doing that well, but next time, please be more careful. Ang galing. I won't be able to talk about it now, but there is another topic that I also discuss, no? I share in my with my clients. Yung bang, how do you give feedback to someone who does something wrong? And yung pattern dito, no, yung galing kay Dice. In Die Come Here, what happened? Paliwanag siya. And then pagkatapos yung paliwanag, okay, I know you're doing your job well, but next time please be more careful. That is the pattern that is recommended. Sayang I cannot elaborate too much. No? But that is a very good way of handling it. Pagsalitain mo siya, hindi mo siya sesermonan ng magdamag o maghapon. You bring up the problem, bring up yung kasalanan niya, and then let her talk. At pagkatapos yung nagsalita, saka mo sabihin yung ano yung... For example, pwede mong sabihin, okay, mahal yan. Paano yan? Mababayaran mo ba? You can explore. Pag sinabi niya, ma'am, wala na akong kakainin, wala akong mapapadala sa pamilya ko, then pwedeng sabihin, okay, hindi, wala na. Ingat ka, huwag mo nang ulitin ito. That sort of thing. Sayang, we cannot go too far into it, too deep into it. Yung kay John Kadimas naman. Hey boy. So dinabi-dami ng mababasag dito sa loob ng bahay. Ito pa. Next time, ingat ha. Okay rin yun. Pero baka naman nandun pa rin yung nangibabaw yung addressing yung kung naglalabas ka ng sama ng loob, di ba? Okay. Si Amy, galingan mo sa akin ang Toblerone. Okay. Hati na lang. Okay. Sige. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Dito sa when you are the one causing the stress and you're asking for, na-realize mo na ikaw pala yung may problema. The verse that struck me most was Matthew 7. It says, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Parang, okay. Kung ikaw yung nang-i-stress at humihingi ka ng feedback, dapat you're looking at it from this perspective. Or if you're giving feedback, you're looking at it from this perspective as well. Okay. So, kung ikaw yung stressor, first of all, alam mo ba na ikaw ang problema? Alam mo ba na ikaw yung pinag-uusapan nila at galit sila? Pero wala kang kamalay-malay. Madalas nangyari ito. It has happened many, many times. In my experience. Pero walang mga sabihin dun sa tao na marami nang galit sa'yo. Pag hindi ka nagbago, mas lalong madadagdagan pa yung may galit sa'yo. So, first challenge is be self-aware at alamin kung ikaw ba yung pinag-uusapan nila at galit sila dahil doon. So, anong gagawin mo pag nalaman mong ikaw pala ang may problema? Ikaw ang salarin, ikaw ang cause ng problema. The initial reaction is, do you ask for feedback? Di ba? Pero, I want to introduce a discussion on this asking for help from others, like yung mga kasama sa bahay. Baka feedback might not be the approach that would work. Asking for feedback may not be the approach that would work. Okay? For a number of reasons. One, feedback focuses on what has been done, not on what can still be done. So parang sinabi mo lang, talpak ka kasi, and then leave it at that. Sa totoo lang din, yung feedback seldom helps achieve improvements. Nasaktan din tao. Sinabi mong, ikaw yung laging pinag-usapan dito eh. Ang dami mo kasing baho. Nasaktan din tao. Does it improve? Very likely hindi. Also, nobody really wants to be told negative things, di ba? And when you're given negative things in a feedback setting, we tend not to listen, but to focus on how we can justify our actions. Pag may nagsasabing, alam mo, yung ginawa mo kanina, mali yun kasi ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. Imbes na nakikinig ka, nag-iisip ka na, paano ko ba papaliwanag sa kanya na sila ang mali, hindi ako. Then, while that conversation is happening, you're struggling with mixed emotions. Mag-ano ka lang sa, baka naman tama sila. But at the same time, doon din yung mga tanga-tong mga to, hindi nila alam, hindi nila naintindihan ako. And the last thing about why feedback does not really work very much is, usually it takes too much time. Yeah. So, example, narinig niyo na siguro to. Pipidbackan ko na talaga yung buang na yan. It's a simple statement, pero implied behind that statement is, ang feedback is not a nice thing. Binibigay yun sa mga buang lang. Di ba? So kung hindi ka bibigyan ng feedback, ibig sabihin magaling ka. And it makes feedback acquire a very bad reputation. Sa opisina, sino bang masaya pag sinabihan ka ng boss na, Simi, mamayang hapon, I have feedback for you. Pagkasabing ganun pa lang siguro, nanginginig ka ng, ano na kaya yun? Not very nice, not a very nice feeling. Tapos, meron bang nag-improve sa atin dahil nabigyan tayo ng feedback? A few, I must admit. Pero kadalasan, wala, nagalit ka lang, nainis ka lang. But did you change? Very often, hindi. So, if feedback is not useful, don't ask for feedback. Anyway, puro naman sumbat abutin mo eh. Di ba? Focus on the past. It's not fun and it takes too much time. Instead, try feed forward. Feed forward is a term na dinevelop ni Marshall Goldsmith. Pag ginugol mo si Marshall Goldsmith, he has a lot of lessons. One of them, itong feed forward. Feed forward, unlike feedback, you focus on future possibilities. It's fun and can be done in less than 5 minutes. Hindi yung maghapon kang sinisermonan o ikaw maghapon mong sinisermonan yung kabilang tao. Okay. Why feed forward? You can influence the future. You cannot change the past. It's much better if you help people learn right rather than prove them wrong. Yeah? Which is, proving them wrong is what happens if you're talking about feedback. Feed forward, you're helping people learn right, the right way, the right things. Tsaka walang personalan. Diba? Hindi personalan ang dating sa feed forward. Walang sumbatan, and then dahil nga walang sumbatan, you help the other person avoid re-experiencing bad experiences, living through bad experiences. So, maganda sana kung lahat tayo, instead of giving feedback, feed forward ang gagawin natin. At feed forward din ang hingi natin kung tayo yung nang-i-stress. Okay. Rules about feed forward. Number 1, pag nagbibigay ka ng feed forward, never talk about the past. Okay? When you receive suggestions, so ikaw naman yung tumatanggap, do not disagree or critique the ideas. In other words, di sinabi siya. Sabihin mo, ay hindi, that will not work for me. Walang ganyan. Nang hingi ka ng suggestions for the future, if you disagree, wala lang. Baka out of the 3 suggestions you make, isa doon will work. Work on that one that works. Diba? And instead of disagreeing and justifying why you cannot do what was suggested, keep the mood positive. And in the end, thank the person. Salamat ka. Di ba? So, how do you do it when you seek feed-forward ideas? Okay. Sa ngayon pa lang, yung mga, kung hindi ka mag-isang nanonood dito ngayon, may kasama ka. Tingnan mo yung mga kasama mo. Sino dyan ang gusto mong either bigyan ka ng feed-forward or bigyan mo ng feed-forward? Okay. Eh kung nakikinig naman kayo pareho, nalalaman nyo na kung ano yung rules, di ba? So, talk about informalities, chit-chat. Okay. Number 3, pwede nang ma-skip yan dahil narinig nyo na yung rules. Tapos sabihin mo lang, I would like to get some ideas from you. How can I be a better blank? So, kung yung kausap mo is your brother, you are a sister, I would like to get some ideas from you. How can I be a better sister to you? Or if you're the mother talking to a son, I would like to get some ideas from you. How can I be a better mother to you? Now, remember, during the conversation itself, walang sumbatan. Never, never, never talk about what happened in the past. Always, what can make our future together better? Always positive, always future. Diba? So, pagka ganon, walang no likelihood of tension, no likelihood of anger, walang ganon. Okay? So, when you're giving feed forward, 3 rules: do not refer or even mention anything about the past. Exclusively, number 2, exclusively focus on future possibilities. And number 3, be generous with ideas. Okay. I will be winding up na. I took more time than I should have. Post your questions. Diba yung mga tinanong kanina? Kung meron kayong tanong pa, ayan. And then, di ba meron ako challenge for the Toblerone? Ayan. Post your answers to the challenge para makita naman ng mga pastor and they can decide whose answer to the challenge is best. Alright. Okay. Now, after we break up, tapos na tayo, halimbawa, goodbye na tayo. Ulitin ko yung sinabi ko kanina. Look around, tingnan mo kung mayroon bang tao dyan na in-stress mo these past 4 months. And then try out feed forward. Okay? Pattern mo ganito. Say, you no need to remind them the rules kasi narinig nyo pareho. So, how can I be a better dad? Kung tatay ka. Or how can I be a better friend? Then, don't say to the person, don't mention past events. I will raise my hand, if you begin to do that. Signal yun na, oops, pumupunta ka na sa past. Okay? I just want to work towards a better tomorrow between us. Then, say, I'd really like to get your suggestions. Okay. And then at the end, say thank you. Diba? Sana hindi kayo mahiya sa isa't isa at gawin nyo talaga ito. And then you'll be surprised. Tapos na yan in like 5 minutes. But it can make a world of difference in your life. Yeah. And finally, summary lang. How to keep cool when you're stressed. Okay, there's a way of doing it. Love your neighbor as yourself. But under that overriding guideline, we talked about focus on the behavior, the problem, the issue, never address the person. Never attack the person. And then, when you are the stressor, pag ikaw yung nang-stress sa iba, ask for feed forward. And sana, at least dun sa second, kasi pwede nyo gawin right away, sana, gawin ninyo ngayon, tonight, bago kayo matulog. Di ba? And so, with all that, thank you. I'm really sorry I took more time than I should have. Pero sana it was worth it. Okay.
Wow. Thank you so much. Tito Thames, man, that was a full pack. That was really good. That was really good. I think more than anybody else, the person that I've seen exemplify uh, this kind of way of behaving is you. I think that's one of the well, one of the positives that I can definitely take away from this. I mean, this is something that you've lived out, and we've been together in different settings over the years. At na-observe ko po yun sa inyo eh. Even in the most sometimes, di ba, emotional settings, um, you seem to have the capacity to be cool in those settings and to be able to come up with a very sensible suggestion in the midst of sometimes heated conversations or discussions. So, patungkol po sa bagay na yon, how much of that is because of your upbringing? Is this a personal? Kasi I think for a lot of people, it doesn't come naturally. Some of the things that I mentioned nyo tonight, Tito Temso, how to respond to situation. I mean, I've been guilty with some of those things. Sometimes the emotional response becomes a personal attack.
You,
So,
you know, siguro one thing that stands out in my own experience, really, yung sinabi ko kanina, uh, you must reflect on your experiences. Both happy experiences as well as painful experiences. When you reflect and you draw out lessons, uh, somehow they accumulate and predispose you to behave in ways that you would be happy with. Uh, in my case, there have been a lot of pains, there have been a lot of happy events. Pero I really take pride na in each of those occasions, I would take time to reflect, and I'm able to avoid uh, future similar problems
mhm,
because naisip ko na okay, pag ganito nangyari, I am a loser and everybody else is a loser if I behave this way.
mhm,
So, I think more than anything, it's the power of reflection
mhm.
on experiences.
Okay, so that's a habit that needs to be developed, over time. I think
That's right. That's right.
I've heard somebody say before, the power of the pause. So in a way, what they're saying is, before you speak, before you respond, pause, pause. So
Mhm,
it's kind of
mhm.
like a similar thing. Reflect
Yeah.
um,
Right.
on
Right.
how you're going to respond. And again, it's a habit that people need to develop over time. Yeah, here's a question. I guess it's a similar question that I asked tonight. Pero Rhea, who happens to be Tito Temi's daughter-in-law, asks, do you think that being calm or cool is a genetic predisposition? Oh, it's actually from your son. It's from Joshua. So Josh is asking this question. Uh,
Um, it's the classic issue of nurture or nature.
mhm,
Uh, are you born that way or did you learn to be that way? I think it is both. I cannot claim knowledge on which one has greater influence. Uh, for example, in in our family, my father's side, uh, mga warrior yung mga yon eh.
mm,
I'm not like that at all. No. Uh, so as far as nature is concerned, it seems not to have rubbed off on me. Pero at least in my case, I will say nurture really my experiences and my reflections on those experiences. And of course, I cannot discount. I've had the fortune great fortune of working with great bosses, no? Great friends who helped me a lot. Let me give you an example. I grew up here in Metro Manila. I grew up in the province, no? Pero I spent a lot of time here in Metro Manila in my grade school years. And at that time, I lived in Sampaloc. And Sampaloc, the neighborhood where we lived, was a very rough neighborhood.
Mm.
And therefore, nakaugalian ko na my sentences, when I speak with friends, my sentences would be punctuated with cuss words.
Mhm.
Mura. No? So, every sentence I make, may mura talaga. No? And I carry that all the way up to college. When I came here to Ateneo, I know, hindi ko nalalaman na, I wasn't aware of that. And then, during one volleyball game, when our team was losing, I was playing, and our team was losing. And, lumalabas natural. Yung mga mura na somehow became part of me. And the guy right in front of me, on the other side of the net, no? The guy right in front of me went like this, looked at me, and then he went like this. And it struck me, why? And I said, oh nga pala, no? Isang katutak na mura. Inuulan ko dito sa mga kasama ko. And, that was the last time na nagmura ako. One little incident, but, I reflected after the game. I said, hindi nga naman maganda yung nagmumura. My history growing up in a rough neighborhood in Sampaloc was overcame by that one little. So, nurture, I think, probably has a greater impact.
Would you call that action a feedback?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was feedback.
Although it wasn't asked for, diba? It was just given
Right.
to you.
Unsolicited.
Kakaiba. Right. Unsolicited feedback. Madami yan. Lalo na sa era ng social media. Very common. Amy, has a good reflection based on what you actually just said. So parang reiteration of that, being calm and cool then has to do with cultural makeup of the person. So I'm guessing she's saying your background or environment, social upbringing, that has a lot to do, just like what you mentioned. But I didn't know that you were in Sampaloc kasi my mom was also in Sampaloc. Pero sa Loreto Street sila. Anong street po kayo?
They changed the names already, but the house where we stayed was at the corner of Honrades Street, and the main street was, I forget the name.
It's okay.
But they changed the name. Hindi na Honrades at hindi na skips my memory na.
Yeah.
But it was a rough neighborhood. It was close to the railroad.
Yes, it's familiar.
One of the things that we used to do on weekends, wala kami pasok, we would take yung mga pakong kabayo, yung horseshoe nails.
Yes.
We would take them, bring them to the railroad tracks, and using wires, tie them to the railroad tracks. At sasagasaan ng train yon. Pag nasagasaan ng train, yung mga pakong kabayo, ng horseshoe, become so flattened, then we tie them to the end of sticks and use them as arrowheads. That was the kind of neighborhood I grew up in.
Adventurous. Wow, kakaiba. Very different. And right now, I can't imagine you actually doing that from how I've known you in the past years. So it's really interesting how, again, despite of what we're exposed to, the possibility of change in terms of behavior and how we think, how we behave, posible pa rin siya. So yung example, because of that single response, as in from that point on, you switched in terms of, wow. So that's very dramatic, How did your friends react to that change?
Ah, I am not sure because they never told me.
Okay.
Ah,
So,
pero siguro it had an impact that I can infer because the
mm,
year after that they elected me as the president of the. There's a inside Ateneo campus there are residential buildings where
mm,
like where I stayed. And the year after that, they made me the president of that organization.
wow.
So
So, definitely made an impression.
very likely, yeah. I'm not sure.
Yes. Yes. So in your observation po, Tito Tems, kasi, these kinds of interactions again, things that we experience, um, for a lot of people na hindi ganun ka expressive in terms of verbalizing, how would you suggest they go about actually beginning to implement this change in their behavior and in their way of thinking?
Um, Whether it is action that you take because you are stressed or action that you take that you are stressed on, in both cases, it requires talking to someone.
Mhm.
So the first hurdle that they have to overcome is the willingness or the unwillingness to speak out, even in a private conversation with someone. Pero pag na-overcome na yun, the rest will follow it. The rest will be easy
Mm.
or should be easy. Pero kailangan you gather enough courage to bring it up. Yung side ng if you're the stressor, ang hurdle lang siguro is you're hindi mahirap yung kausapin yung tao. Di ba? Ano ka na, dati ka na ganun eh. Pero ang kailangan i-overcome mo is yung willingness to this time you will be listening rather than doing the talking.
Mm.
But if you're able to hurdle that, madali na yung conversation. And
Mm.
remember, if it's feed forward ang process na gagamitin mo, in 5 minutes it's done. It doesn't take very long. But if you are the one stressed and yung challenge is, okay, how do I bring it up with this person who's causing this to be? Yun.
Yes. Yes. Oh. So, yeah, yung challenge I think sometimes then for others is affirmative speak, so affirming and pointing out the good things. If it's not a readily practiced personal culture, um,
Ah,
how can people begin to actually be affirming instead of, kasi di ba yung personal,
mm,
separating that from affirming what they actually do. That's good.
yeah. Oh, admittedly, that is a difficult hurdle to take. Uh, Kasi that comes from years and years of naging habit na yung where you're coming from. No? And then now you're going to
Mm,
overcome it by bringing up
mm,
something with someone else. No? That really, admittedly, is difficult. But siguro, this could be a cop-out response. No? Pero para bang, there's a Chinese saying na a journey of 1,000 miles begins with once the first step.
mm.
So parang, okay, take that first step and take it wherever it might take you. But take that first step. Uh, if you don't, you'll never get anywhere.
Right, right. So really, again, it's a matter of deciding and making a choice to point out the
Right,
positives.
right. Yeah,
Um, yung feed forward, choose to feed forward.
yeah.
Ang galing, ang galing. I mean, there's so many other things that we definitely can talk about. But that was so good this evening, Tito Tems. All the things that you shared. And yun nga mukhang na-excite sila sa Toblerone kanina. Medyo nag-light up yung chat at nagtutuloy-tuloy pa rin. So again, hey, if you have suggestions, you feel like you can do better than what's already been posted, in terms of giving a proper response, to that statement that was given as a challenge. Totoo po yung Toblerone na yun. We will announce the winner tomorrow night for WNL. For those of you who don't know kung ano yung WNL, this is Wednesday Night Live. So if you want to tune in back again, dito po sa Facebook page natin at ICS Church. Same time at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, we will announce who that winner is. Mamaya. Bukas po ng gabi. Wow, pero busog talaga, busog talaga. At the same time tonight, we want to ask those of you who've been listening to give us feedback. So a feedback link is going to be shared sa chat. If you could take time just to go to that link later on and help us out. We would like to know. This now is our 9th episode time. We would love just to know a little bit more on this. Yes, Tito Temps, we're going to say something?
No, I'm good. Yeah. I'm afraid I've taken up so much time already.
No, it's good. All those things that were shared definitely was beneficial. Actually, hindi po bumaba yung viewership natin the whole time. So people were tuned in to that. How can people get in touch with you po if they want to know more about what you shared? And you mentioned some other things as well this evening.
Well, pwedeng through ICS or pwede ding my email address.
Okay.
It's tempadla@gmail.com. One word, tempadla.
Okay. All right. So we'll include that in the description. We actually included your website as well. So for those of you who would like to know a bit more of the consultation that Tita Temi does, you can just go to tempadla.com and we will, there we go. It's in the chat. There's the email for those of you who want to get in touch with them. Yan, napaka-efficient po ng ating tech support. It's on there right away. So we want to thank you. I mean, so many have already said thanks tonight in the chat box. So thank you so much, Tita Thames, for again spending time this evening with us and sharing these insights. So I'm going to say good night to you. And thanks as well for Dea, who helped us out as well in the background.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for her.
Thank you, Dea, for your help sa gabing ito. So those of you, again, who are tuned in this evening, again, are looking forward next week. It's another episode of Talk Time. This talk is going to be made available a few minutes right after we go off live. You can just go back and recheck. If there were some things that you missed out in the talk this evening, go back and review. And if you know that somebody's going to benefit from this as well, feel free just to share this right afterwards to them as well. But I want to thank you tonight just for spending time this evening with me and, of course, my very special guest, Tito Temi Padla. I hope that you have a good evening wherever you are. Oops, the rains has restarted in Metro Manila. I hear it outside. Again, stay safe and let's continue to pray and really ask for this pandemic to be over as soon as possible. But if not, there are people that we live with at home, people that we work with. Let's again implement, even tonight, the challenge is let's implement tonight, sharing this evening to those that we are living with today. So thank you. And again, a good evening to everyone. Have a good night wherever you are.